by former Democratic Senator and Congressman from North Dakota, Byron Dorgan, along with former Republican Senator and Governor from New Hampshire, Judd Gregg. Gentlemen, let's get to it. We're going to attack three different plans on both of these. First to the tax plans. We can put up some of the details. Hillary says the minimum 30% rate on those with incomes of more than, well, it depends, 700 million. There would be 700,000 rather. There would be a 4% surcharge for those making $5 million more. She would raise the estate tax, et cetera, et cetera. Donald Trump, on the other hand, would simplify the tax code. 33% would be the rate on top earners. Corporate rate, 15%, cut from 35%. He would also remove millions from even paying income tax. I will start with you, Senator Gregg. Which one looks to be an opportunity, A, to help America, and B, to get passed through Congress?
Well, first, I have to tell you that Red Sox fans are not weird. They are great people.
You New Hampshire people, man.
And the Big Poppy is the best.
Okay.
Well, clearly the Trump plan, in my opinion, is an economic growth plan. It's saying, let's give people the opportunity to go out, take risks, create jobs, and grow the economy. Whereas Hillary's plan is essentially a classic redistribution plan, where you basically take a whole lot of money from one group and then the government gives it out to another group, and you claim that that's going to create jobs and economic growth. It never has, and it never will, because economic growth comes from people being willing to go out, take a risk, create a job, start a small business, and they're not going to be willing to do that if the government's taking almost all of their income in taxes to redistribute it. So basically, I like the Trump approach more, although I obviously have some other reservations about Trump's ideas.
I understand. Senator Dorgan, obviously Hillary's plan is very different when it comes to certain things, specifically not the regulation. She wants to add more regulation. That might choke small businesses. That's what Charlie Gasparino has said. And I'm just wondering, what do you think about her opportunity for America and for what would spur growth?
Well, part of what's important is how people see the future. If they have some optimism about the future, you know, we tend to have economic expansion. But it's very hard to have optimism when you have a Trump tax plan, for example, that would add about $9 trillion to the debt. If you're worried about indebtedness, and we should be, you know, Donald Trump has put together a plan that's pretty easy to do. Just decide, it doesn't matter what the end number is. It doesn't have to add up. I'll just propose out there some very steep tax cuts, and we'll just charge it. Well, we can't stay on $9 or $10 trillion additional debt, in my judgment. So and by the way, in 1986, I was part of the last tax reform package that we put together on the House Ways and Means Committee, led by Ronald Reagan and Bradley and Gephardt and others, and we broadened the base, we lowered the rates, so I know about tax reform. I was pleased to vote for that.
And it worked with growth.
And it did.
Let me get to infrastructure. Hillary Clinton wants to do an infrastructure package of about $275 billion. Donald Trump would double that, Senator Gregg. Again, that's an interesting point, because you would think that most Republican candidates would not be doing as much government spending.
Well, first off, I agree with Byron on the issue of how you go about tax cuts. I happen to think the Reagan Rostenkowski tax cut, of which I was part also, I was on the committee at the same time and supported, was a good approach. And it was followed up by Simpson-Bowles' proposal, which was bipartisan, which did the same thing. So you do need balance when you do tax cuts, but you should cut rates. You should not increase rates, which is what Hillary's proposing. On infrastructure expenditures, as long as you pay for it, we do need major infrastructure expansion. We do need to get our roads right. We need to get our schools right. We need to get our bridges built. And so a big infrastructure program is a good idea, but it has to be paid for. It can't be like the stimulus program that began this presidency, Barack Obama.
Yeah. And Senator Dorgan, Hillary's plan is slimmer, certainly.
Well, but look, Hillary says, and we need an infrastructure investment bank that's going to have plans for infrastructure investment for the next 50 years. We have to do that. You know, a friend of mine talks about being warmed by fires we didn't light, drinking from wells we didn't dig, driving on roads we didn't build. The fact is, we're living on infrastructure that came from our parents and grandparents, and we need a robust, big infrastructure program that can be paid for with a Build America bond program over the next 50 years. But you know, we shouldn't set that aside. We need to do that together, Republicans and Democrats.
Okay, well, will it pass through Congress? Guys, will either of these? Not in their current form.
Actually, they would. I actually think there's fertile ground for a bipartisan initiative in the area of tax reform along the lines of what Byron outlined, and also in the area of massive infrastructure expansion. But you got to pay for it. I don't actually think these bonds work very well because we're already borrowing too much. I think you got to use some sort of revenue, such as a gas tax or something, to pay for it.
Gentlemen, we got to run. But thank you very much.